everyone?
Yes.
Okay, well, so we started with fourth chapter in the last class, just some basics we did in the last class. And basically we have to do the whole chapter now. So before I move forward, let me just give a brief recap of the last class. So normally one or the other student has to do this, but whenever there is a new student joining the batch, I do it, okay? Otherwise it would have been Minashi or Mazia. So from next class onwards, it can be Reem and Madhya as well. So be prepared, okay? You have to revise everything that we cover in that class, because in the next class, you could be the one giving the recap. Okay?
Okay, sir.
Okay, so let's begin. So chapter 4. So I'm just assuming for Madhya and Reem that from your schools, you know about sexual and asexual reproduction, the basics. Whatever is the doubt, we'll cover it. But you know that asexual reproduction does not involve gamete formation and gamete fusion, and sexual reproduction involves gamete fusion. Yes, generally. Correct, Madhya?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Reem? This thing is clear?
Yes, sir.
So we will just assume that you have studied sexual reproduction in humans, which is chapter 3. So what was the point of studying reproductive system for humans? First is, just like any other system, it is also a physiological system in human body, correct? And this is the only system which differentiates both the sexes. Apart from this, all other systems are same. Whether it's cardiovascular, it's excretory, digestive, respiratory, nervous, hormonal, all these which you have studied in human physiology in class 11 is same for males and females. Reproductive system differentiates between these two sexes biologically in case of humans, right? So you already know humans are dioecious. They have two bodies for each for one sex, okay? And every body is monosexual, correct? Just some basics for Madhya and Reem. So you have to say yes at these. Minashi and Mazia knows this.
Yes.
Okay. Now, having studied reproductive system, it is important to study it because reproductive system, it develops after puberty, like it starts showing the functionality after puberty. So we are born with it, but we only use it for a specific period in life, and it's not very much important for our survival, but it's very important for continuation of species. But whenever there is a system, there are disorders associated with it, health related issues associated with it. So reproductive health is an extension of your third chapter only, where we will just talk about the problems and issues that happen in a reproductive system and how can we handle it. So in the last class, I started with the basic definition of reproductive health, which says it is the overall well-being of a human in all aspects of reproduction. Okay, now with all aspects, I mean physical, social, emotional, all the aspects. Is it clear? And behavioral. Now physical means related to the organs. There can be many functions that can go that can become disordered, or there can be diseases in those organs. So that is physiological. Emotional and behavior is because of hormones. So during reproductive cycles, there is lots and lots of hormonal signaling happening in the body, right? Females especially go through it every month during the menstrual cycle. And since this is, I think this is a female only batch, because they never add any guy to this batch, which is a good thing. We can call it the pink batch. Not to stereotype pink as a color, but yes. Anyone who knows the cultural reason behind dedicating pink to females and blue to males? Anyone is aware of it? You must have seen that in many cultures where sex determination is allowed, they do this one ceremony where the sex of the child is revealed in front of the parents as a surprise, or at least in front of the father as a surprise. Have you seen this?
Yes.
So they always, there's a balloon which will be black or some random neutral
White color.
Black or white, like a neutral color, which does not signify any sex. And then inside will be some beads or papers or something. So you burst it. If pink things flow out, it's a girl. And if blue things flow out, it's a boy, right?
Yeah.
When did we in human history decided that pink is for girls and blue is for boys? Anyone knows about it? Have you ever thought of it?
Yes.
Yes. What do you think, Reem?
Maybe because pink is very feminine color.
But how do we decide something is feminine?
I don't know, you just get the vibe.
Why? Okay. Do you get the vibe of feminism, like a feminine vibe from pink?
Yes.
Then it justifies. Okay. In your free time, just try to figure out these things, because biology breaks a lots of taboos in society. Yesterday only we were talking about, sorry, in the last class only, sorry, in the last chapter only we were talking about such issues. When we study reproductive system and reproductive health, we get to know that a lot of things for which we blame females are actually females should not be blamed for that. For
Yeah,
example,
males should be blamed.
the sex of a child. Females have nothing to do with it. Because females only give X chromosome either to a boy or to a girl. It's the father who decides by providing either X or Y that the zygote will become a boy or a girl, right?
Yes.
So all these things, because we do not know, are still being practiced. And one more thing, you both of like this batch, I can proudly say with this batch, I can proudly say it everywhere, but in biology, if those who love biology always knows that female sex is actually the default state in biology. You know that?
Default state.
You know what is a default state?
Automatic.
Which comes a natural setting, right?
Yeah.
Get a new device, you have some default settings coming from,
Yeah.
then you tweak those settings and make it non-default. So the default sex in biology is female. If you do not give signal to a zygote what to become, it will without any signaling, it will become a female. To make a male, we have to tweak settings genetically. This is where I was trying to convince Madhya that genetics is very interesting, Madhya. Probably when we'll come to that part, we will like it. Okay, I hope. So let's continue with the reproductive health today. Yes, Madhya, you're saying something?
No, sir.
So reproductive health related issues are with males, it could be spermatogenesis related. Now, spermatogenesis is production of gametes. It could be motility or viability of the sperm related, like genesis is done, but the health of the sperm is not good. It could be disorders with the glands or erectile dysfunction with the penile tissue, the penis, right, the external genitalia. With females, it could be issues with ovulation or ovarian disorders like PCOD, PCOS. It's a very prevalent, like it's becoming very common now among females that ovaries do have polycysts in them, or hormonal misregulation. These are very common disorders to begin with that can happen in reproductive health. Then we discussed, and all these disorders leads to infertility. Now, infertility is a topic which I will discuss in today's class in detail. Apart from that, we also discussed sex determination. So just to give you a recap, sex determination in humans happen through X and Y chromosomes, which are called allosomes. It is the 23rd pair, also known as the sex pair, sex chromosome pair. If a zygote has two X, one X came from the mother, the other came from the father, it will become a female because it is homozygous for the sex chromosome. Is it clear?
Sir.
It's called XY system. If a father gives Y, because mothers will always give X, okay? If a father gives Y, then X and Y together will give rise to a male, a non-default setting of biology. It's a heterozygous setting for allosome, which gives rise to male. There are other modes of sex determinations in biology about which we will study in genetics, not here, okay? Now, this process where we can actually determine sex of a fetus is called amniocentesis. Now, in amniocentesis, this is the name of the test, and this is banned in many countries. I don't know the status for like Middle East countries where you are currently residing. Is it banned there? Is sex determination allowed in Middle East?
It's allowed.
Allowed?
Yeah, it's allowed it here.
Good. Which tells that, yes, very good. Which tells that actually people in Middle East are not killing their girls, right? So basically it's banned in many countries to prevent female feticide. Okay. So females are not considered desirable kids in many countries due to lack of proper education and certain other cultural issues that are there, like dowry system is there, and parents think that if we have a girl child, it's a burden on us. So, you know, and also patriarchal setup of the society leads to female feticide a lot. So there is a statutory ban on amniocentesis, but biologically how we do it is this. We were discussing. Did I made a figure here? It's not okay. No, I'll make it. So everyone, when we are inside the womb, when we are developing, just before parturition we just did in the last class. So I expect answers from Minashi and Mazin. So before parturition, we are actually covered inside a membrane, correct? In the mother's womb. And inside that membrane, there is a fluid, which is called amniotic fluid, right? Yes or no?
Yes.
We can take that slight little bit of fluid from that amniotic fluid through an injection or a syringe. Then we will get some loose cells also with it. And we just need 1 or 2 cells of the embryo where we can just go to the nucleus of the cell and look whether it's a XX configuration at the 23rd pair or a XY configuration. And with this, we can get to know that whether the zygote is a boy or a girl very early before it even develops male and female genitalia in the first trimester itself. Where if we do it early, then before the first trimester, we can medically terminate the pregnancy, which is called commonly as abortion or medical termination of pregnancy. Okay, MTP. Now, this MTP as a technique, biological technique, is important sometimes because we were discussing in the last class that there are certain situations where if the child continues to grow on inside the female, then the female's life is at risk. There are certain disorders where the mother gets allergic to her own baby, which is developing inside the womb. These are very rare conditions, but in these conditions, it becomes necessary to medically terminate the pregnancy. Otherwise, the life of the baby or the mother or both is at risk. You understand?
Yes, sir.
It is done by doctor's consent under like medical supervision when there is no other option available. The other reason for which medical termination pregnancy is allowed is if the fetus has some very gross deformities. Through ultrasound, we get to know that the fetus is not forming a full limb or a part of the body at all. And if it continues to develop, it will be like a deformed fetus. So giving rise to a deformed fetus where the life is like, it will be a burden for the fetus and for the parents. Within a period, the parents can decide if they want to continue with the pregnancy or not. Sometimes it's also a genetic disorder where we can, through the help of this amniocentesis, we can also get to know that there are genetic disorders in the fetus, and even after birth, it will not survive more than a year or 6 months. So then also medical termination of pregnancy is advised. Okay, it's better to not give birth to a baby who will suffer the whole life. You understand? So you can medically terminate the pregnancy if it is allowed by the medical professionals. But it is misused for female feticide. And there are two terms. Female feticide is when you are killing the fetus, when it is inside the womb. Okay. Female infanticide is when you are killing the girl child after the birth. You are killing an infant. Killing a fetus is feticide. Killing an infant is infanticide. Killing a female because she is a female is called femicide. Clear with 3 terms?
Yes, sir.
It is a proper lawful criminal activity. These two are also criminal activities, but they involve amniocentesis most of the time. So that's why this thing is banned in many countries. Now we have to take from here. So we have not discussed much, but in today's class, let's begin with one very important problem. If everyone is fertile, let's assume the world has no problem with reproductive system. Before going to problems, let's see if everyone is fertile. Then also we have a problem associated with reproduction, and that is overpopulation, correct?
Yes, sir.
So what can we do to control overpopulation?
Contraceptive methods.
Yes. So birth control is one thing which we can do. Like we have to control birth, because after birth we cannot do anything. Correct?
Yes.
Once a human is born, he has all the human rights of life and survival. So that cannot be taken away. And you can also not impose on married couples that, see, you cannot give birth to a baby. Okay. So like many countries have these policies, like one couple, one child policy, or one couple, two child policy. But these policies also say that you will not get certain benefits from government if you have more than this number of kids. But they're not like, if you have more than this number of kids, then like we will do something to you, will jail you, or you will be punished or something like that. So that's inhumane. But what can be done easily is to prevent fertilization from happening, right? And that is called birth control. So write down, uh, there are certain terms that we have to understand first. One is, what do you understand by population explosion? Write down population explosion. This is asked in 1 mark in board papers. Population explosion. Any idea? Just looking at the term.
More number of people.
But why are we not calling it population growth, overpopulation? Why explosion?
Because it's uncontrollable.
How can population become uncontrollable all of a sudden?
Because people are not educated about contraceptive methods.
Before going to contraceptive methods, there is something called birth rate and death rate. You know that?
Yes.
What is the birth rate and what is the death rate?
Birth rate is something, mortality, I guess. Mortality.
Birth
rate
rate cannot be mortality. Birth rate is birth. Rate means anything with
Number of children born per 1,000 people is birth rate.
per thousand.
1,000 people. 1,000 births actually.
How many people will take birth per 1,000 birth? 1,000 people. But yeah, this is rate. You studied what is rate in physics? There is something called ratio and rate. So there is a sex ratio. How many females are there per 1,000 males? That is called sex ratio. I think you are confusing between two definitions. You understand, Madhya? Sex ratio is how many females
Yes, sir.
per 1,000 males. Birth rate is how many number of births are taking place in a given amount of time. Rate is always with respect to time. Correct?
Sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So rate has nothing to do with upon 1,000 people. It is just with respect to time. Okay. So birth rate is one thing, and then the death rate. Death rate is same. How many people are dying in that fixed time? So let's say if I'm talking about 1 day. So in 1 day, how many births are happening versus how many deaths are happening? Now, do you think that let's not talk about the birth first. Let's talk about death. So what has the death rate increased or decreased over time? Now,
It has
Increased.
increased.
increased or decreased?
Yes. No, increased.
Increased.
Why? Why do you think, Madhya, it has increased? And Reem also. Reem, why do you think death rate?
Because of mental health or financial problem,
Okay.
or just they're just growing old.
Okay. But don't you think death? So apart from like, so when you are bringing in mental health issues, I think you are bringing in the deaths which are contributed by voluntary deaths, by suicides, right?
Yes.
If we keep that aside for a moment, death rate is also depends on the medical infrastructure. Earlier also, it's not like mental health issues are something which just cropped up in 2022. Earlier, people were not aware of it, right?
Yes.
People were used to call them mad people in the society. Oh, he has gone mad.
Crazy, yeah.
You know, or some bhoot pret is over that person or something like that. You know, we didn't used to know what is happening inside the brain. So these things always happen. But over time, do you think 300 years ago, if someone had, when there was no antibiotic, no antiviral, no antifungal, if someone had a viral infection, will that person survive?
No.
Is it possible to save that person today?
Yes.
Almost no one dies with a viral infection now, right?
Yes.
You are saved. So now keeping in mind the factor of medical infrastructure and medical growth and technology, what do you think? Death rate has gone up or down?
Decreased.
Yes. Even the average lifespan of man has increased. Earlier, when people used to live in like without uh, modern facilities and medical infrastructures, any kind of infection used to kill like villages, plagues, influenzas. In medieval times, these kind of infections used to swipe the whole village, the whole community at one time. 60-70% people used to die because there was nothing that we could do. Now we can save, right? We can save people. And because over the life also, we can maintain ourselves healthy. We can do regular checkups. Whenever there is any issue in the body, we can take treatment or precautionary measures, and we can increase our lifespan. So over the time, death rate has decreased. Yes.
Yes.
Because we are more stable as a species, we live in civilizations. Kids in mortality rate has also decreased. Kids do not die that much nowadays. If you ask your parents and grandparents when they were kids, or when your grandparents got newly married, around that time, kids mortality rate was very high. So people always used to have more than 2, 3, 4 kids, and almost everyone has seen some or the other sibling dying at a very early age. Like 1 or 2 generations before us, it was very common to see a sibling dying in the family because of anything: cholera, chicken pox, or a hay fever, brain fever, yellow fever, or like let's say chikungunya, any infection, malaria, dengue. So people used to die. But nowadays, even kids are being saved. So kids mortality rate is also gone down. The death rate of normal humans is also, adult humans is also gone down, right? Plus,
Yes.
because we are very secure, we have food resources, we have banking systems, we have everything in place to keep humans safe. We are not predated by tigers and lions. We are not, no more, we are nomads. So we can also have more kids, correct?
Yes.
Will keep multiple kids and multiple kids survive. So the birth rate has gone up and the death rate has gone down. Both of these together, when they play a combined effect on the population, sometimes in some region you will see that within 1 or 2 generations, the population just gets double or tripled, and that's called a population explosion. So it has happened in special, like if you see the graph of India and China, it has happened in last 100 years, like not 100 years even. When India got independence, which is like less than, like around 75-76 years ago, less than 80 years ago, there were less than 1/5 the population. Around 25 crore people were there in India. 25 crore total population around. Now it is 138 crores. So within 76 years, how much it has exploded. It has not grown. The growth curve just goes up. It shoots. You understand?
Yes, sir.
It shoots because over time everything started getting stabilized, and there was lots of resources. So people started having kids, started settling in places, and within 70 years, from 25 to 138 crores, the population rose. And now we are facing the issue of overpopulation. Both the first heavily populated country, China, and the second, India, both are facing this issue. Resources are limited. So write down about population explosion. A rapid or exponential growth in population within short number of generations, within short number, either 2 or 3 generations. That's it. The case of India is a classic case because everything has happened within just like 2 generations. My grandfather was in his teens when India got independence. Then my father and me. So I'm the third generation technically, and from 25 we are 138 already. So this is called a population explosion. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
On the other hand, a population growth is what you will see USA has gone through. Like if you see the graph of USA, or like even you can figure it about Middle East. Middle East does not have a population growth, population explosion till now, but it will have, because lots and lots of money is there, stability is there, people are settling, and technology is growing rapidly. So in coming some time, you will see a population explosion in Middle East as well. Earlier it was a desert, right? Not much, not many things were there. Many resources were not there. A country which heavily dependent on imports is now one of the biggest centers for both export and business. So people are settling into that region very, very fast. So it will go through population explosion very soon. Do you understand population explosion within a short generation, within a short number of generation?
Yes, sir.
All right, down. A measure to control population explosion is birth control. A measure to control population explosion is to practice birth control. Let's start with the chapter. This chapter is mostly factual. There are certain concepts that I will tell you about, but most of the time you have to remember things. So I'll try to go a sequence wise so that it's a story which sets in your head and you don't have to mug up a lot. So what is birth control? As the name suggests, write down the regulation of conception. What is conception? What is contraception? What does the word contradictory means? Madhya. Reem?
I don't know, sir.
Contradictory? Your statement is contradictory to mine.
Something that is
Opposing.
opposite or opposing, yeah.
So
Disagree.
contra comes for opposing, contradictory. Now I'm saying what is conception? Conception is?
Some kind of concept statement.
Yes, but no. Conception here in reproductive terms means pregnancy. Okay.
Okay.
A successful fusion of gametes leading to a pregnancy is called conception. The female has successfully conceived. You have heard this term, conceived? This female,
Yes.
she's very fertile, she has conceived. So conception is that. So contraception will be just contradictory.
She's not fertile.
Contraception will be opposite of conception. Is it clear, Madhya?
Yes.
Yeah. Minashi, do you understand? Okay, perfect. So the birth control is regulation of conception by preventive measures. By preventive measures or devices. Preventive measures or devices. Together known as contraception. Together known as contraceptions. Now, the concept is very simple. That's why to oppose it also is very simple. The concept is do not let the male and the female gamete fuse. Yes. If we just can keep the male gamete away from the female gamete, we have achieved contraception. Is it clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
How can we do that? There are two ways. One is temporary and one is permanent method. So write down contraceptions are of two types. Contraception is basically birth control method or birth control strategy. So contraception is of two types. Temporary means it can be reverted back. So it's a temporary solution where we are making the human infertile or unable to conceive for a temporary time period. And that time period we can fix on the basis of what device is being used or what method is being used. Another is permanent method. Permanent is once if you are unable to produce offsprings, then you are unable to produce offsprings. Now let's go to permanent method first because it's easy. What do you think? What could be a permanent method? What could be a permanent solution to never allow sperms and ovum fertilize each other?
Surgery.
Simple. We have studied in reproductive system that both male gamete and both female gamete, when they are produced from their respective gonads, they travel through some ducts, right? In the case of males, it is vas deferens. In case of females, it is the oviduct. Yes or no?
Sir, it's fallopian tube, right?
Yes, fallopian tube is known as oviduct.
Oh.
Please write it down if you don't know. Fallopian tube is biologically called oviduct. The word ovi is always associated with the egg cell. Okay, oogenesis, ovum, oocyte, oviduct, all associated with the egg cell. So duct means tube. So fallopian tube is oviduct. Is it clear, Reem?
Yes, sir.
And in males, sperms travel from the testes through vas deferens, right? They come out into the urethra through vas deferens or ejaculatory duct, which we call. Remember these terms? Even if you don't remember, when you will go back to my lectures, you will understand this. But you understand that there are ducts in both the systems through which gametes travel. Yes, everyone?
Yes.
If we can just surgically cut and tie these ducts, which means we are just removing the road. So the traffic cannot come now, right? So write down the permanent method. The permanent method includes sterilization by surgery. We call it sterilization. We made the human sterile. Sterilization through surgery, by surgery. Now, this was a question in boards. What is the difference between infertile and sterile? Quickly.
Infertile is natural.
Yes, infertile is an organism which is not capable of reproducing due to natural causes. And what is sterile?
Surgical method.
It could be surgical and it could also be when we are making hybrids. You understand?
Yes.
Sterile hybrids offsprings are produced. So if you buy, like if we crossbreed a donkey with a horse, a mule is produced, right? And that's a sterile organism. It cannot reproduce. So sterile is where some kind of an involvement is there, unnatural involvement is there. And infertile is like by birth, some natural causes are there. Okay. So in this, we do the surgery, and what you have to remember is if we do it in male, then what are we cutting in males?
Vas deferens.
Yes. So if we are cutting vas deferens, what will it be called?
Vasectomy.
Yes, it will be called vasectomy. The word tommy is always for slicing or cutting. Okay, vasectomy means we are cutting the vas deferens. And if it is in, so this is in males. And if it is in female, what are we cutting?
Fallopian tube.
What we will call it?
Tubectomy.
Tubectomy. Perfect. This is simple, right? Tubectomy. So permanent has no, it is irreversible. Write down certain things. It is irreversible. We cannot revoke it back. So in both these cases, a small part of the duct is cut and tied together. So now there is no exchange of gametes that can happen, like no transfer of gamete that can happen. In permanent methods, the question which is asked in boards is, does sterilization by surgery has any effect on the sexual drive of the humans? Write down this question. Do permanent methods or do sterilization by surgery, which is vasectomy and tubectomy, do they have any effect on the sexual drive of the individual? What do you think? Sexual drive is the urge, the sexual urge that brings the organisms in the heat period. All organisms, whether in like humans or in wild, they always reproduce when they are in the sexual urge. And this is a natural behavior encoded, and it is a very, very strong behavior. So do you think that will be affected when we are cutting and tying the tube and the vas deferens?
Maybe.
Why do you think maybe? See, you
Because
do. Yes, please. Because
they won't be able to perform well.
that's what I'm asking. Why are you thinking? What is this performance? Like you're talking about the sexual drive performance, but what is it regulated by? How do an organism comes into sexual drive? Through hormones, right?
Yes.
If we cut the tube and tie it, we are cutting it for the gametes. So the gametes will not be able to transfer. But are we cutting all the blood vessels which are coming from testes and from the ovary?
No.
And hormones always travel through blood, right?
Yes.
The hormonal surge will still be there, right?
Yes.
Male and female will still feel the sexual urge. They still will be on high on testosterone and estrogen. So the sexual drive will be normal. Yes or no?
Yes.
This is a very big myth and misconception that has led to the failure of this whole program, where people used to go to villages and rural areas and tell them that, see, if you have 2 kids already, you do not need more. So get yourself vasectomized. But they're like, no, if we get vasectomized, then our sexual drive will go down because you are, cutting things inside our body, which will lower down the performance. And that is one worry no one wants to get vasectomized due to. But if you see logically and scientifically, that's not going to happen, right? Because
Yes.
it is all hormonal, and hormones can still travel throughout the body from testes through blood. We are just cutting and tying the vas deferens and fallopian tube, which transfers just gametes, nothing else. Okay, everyone? So what will be your answer? There is no effect on the sexual drive of the individual due to sterilization by surgery. Write down. I will just discuss some important things that have been asked from this chapter, because it itself is a 2 or 3 page chapter. It's not very big. So this is one question that comes in subjective exams. So there will be no effect. And the reason is sexual drive is caused by hormonal regulation, which is not affected upon sterilization by surgery. Do you want me to repeat something? Please do ask. Mazia, Minashi, are you with?
No, sir.
You're not. You want me to repeat something, Reem?
No, sir.
So the answer is yes. No, there is no effect on the sexual drive, because the sexual drive is regulated by hormones. And when we sterilize by surgery, we only cut and tie the vas deferens and fallopian tube. The hormones can still be transported throughout the body through blood. Okay, clear. So this was permanent solution. Okay. Now in permanent methods, is there a chance of failure? Is it possible that you have vasectomized a male, but still it can fertilize a female? No chances of failure. That this is like a sure short way to say that now there will be no fertilization and no birth happening. So write down, it is a sure shot foolproof method. It is the only foolproof method actually. It is a foolproof method. Now let's come to temporary methods. Now when we say temporary, they can be revoked back, they can be reverted back. Now in temporary methods, there are two kind of temporary methods. One is natural and one is artificial. Okay. So here we have division. Write down. One is natural. What do we mean by natural temporary method? Where we are not using anything, any device which is artificially made. And natural methods have been practiced from a very long time by humans. Okay, so this, let's first go through natural method. It's very simple. It includes methods like there's something called a safe period, or rhythm method. Here we rely on the knowledge of menstrual cycle in females. So how long is a menstrual cycle for? Quickly, Minashi and Mazia, you have studied this. Madhya, yes, please.
30, 29, 25 to 30 days.
Yes. So the average we take is 28 days. Okay, 25 and 30 both are due to some irregularities. If everything is normal, then it's 28 days. Okay. Okay, Madhya.
Okay, sir.
So in 28 days, have you studied the uterine cycle? I think Minashi and Mazia has done, I know that, but Madiha and Reem, have you studied in your schools the menstrual cycle?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
You know that the first phase is called the bleeding phase of 1 to 5 days. Then there's a proliferative phase and a secretory phase. Yes.
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 In which of the phase do you think that it is highly unlikely for fertilization to happen?
Last few days.
Last few days or first 5 days?
First 5 days.
Yeah, first 5 days.
Right? Because see, it's logical. First 5 days, everything is breaking apart from the uterus and flowing out. The uterus is getting cleaned. The layer is getting cleaned. So even if we assume that a sperm entered somehow, it also waded through all that pool and river of blood and it reached the uterus. Let's also assume that somehow there is a ovum present by miracle. Let's also assume there is a fertilization that happened, but still there is no endometrium to implant, right? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
First of all, sperm will not enter because it's the bleeding phase going on. Okay. Second, females do not ovulate during the first 5 days, so there will be no ovum also. And third, there is also the endometrium is not there. The first 5 days are the most the period where no implantation can happen, but it is also the period where no sexual activity is also possible. Yes, like it is possible, but if so, you write down the first phase, which is the menstrual phase of the menstrual cycle. The first few days, which is the menstrual phase, is the safe period. It's called the safe period because chances of fertilizations are highly unlikely. In biology, we never say possible or impossible. Nothing is impossible in biology. Like there are few things which are impossible, but when it comes to life, life finds a way. So we do not use this is possible and this is impossible. We use highly unlikely, likely, and very much possible. So you understood safe period, the first initial days, which is the most riskiest period. The chances of fertilization is highest on which day
The last phase.
of the menstrual cycle? The last means talk in terms of days.
Days.
14 to 25.
Yes, actually it is 10 to 20 days, the period between 10th day to 20th day, because ovulation, when does ovulation happen?
14. Day 14.
On day 14 ovulation happens, so you need ovum for fertilization. So if a sperm goes on day 10th, 11th, 12th, it can stay there for 2 days, and on 14th day ovulation can happen. And beyond that, for let's say we are giving a grace period of 10 more days. So 10 to 20 is the risky, like around the ovulation time, it's the most riskiest time. If you are not using any barrier, you are just relying on natural methods, then you should not have copulation during the most fertile period of the menstrual cycle, which is around the day of ovulation. Is it clear? And as we go towards the end, like I heard that Reem has multiple times given an answer towards the end, towards the end. So towards the end, when day 28 starts approaching, what happens, Reem? Reem, what happens towards the end?
The menstrual cycle stops.
It's a cycle. It never stops. It only stops when menopause comes, or it stops when pregnancy is there. So after 28th day, it comes back to the bleeding phase, day 1. Yes?
Yes.
Because the levels of progesterone and estrogen goes very down, right?
Yes.
There's something you have already studied, so I'm just relying on that, but we'll do it again. So write down in natural methods, write down some things. So first thing is safe period or rhythm method, where the concept of menstrual cycle is utilized. Second natural method is abstinence. You know what is abstinence?
Absence.
Absence. So abstinence of, which is called periodic abstinence. Write down periodic abstinence. Avoid sexual intercourse. Write down avoid sexual intercourse around the time of ovulation, because that's the most prominent period where fertilization can happen. That's called periodic abstinence. Is it clear?
Yes.
For both of these, you need a actual knowledge of a track of the female's menstrual cycle. Yes or no? For safe period or rhythmic method, or for abstinence, you need to know when the cycle starts and when the cycle ends. Correct?
Yes.
And there is something called coitus interruptus. It's also known as withdrawal method. This method says that during the course of sexual, like during the act of sexual intercourse, just before the ejaculation, the male should withdraw the penis from the female genitalia. Now, if you withdraw the penis, it decreases the chances of sperm going into a female system, but it is not foolproof. Because have you studied? You must have studied, and including Minashi and Mazia, this is for you also. Much before ejaculation happens, the glands which are present in the male system, bulbourethral gland, prostate gland, and seminal vesicles, they start secreting, right? They actually lubricate the whole urethral lining, and they also start secreting, correct? Pre-ejaculatory fluid, we call it. And it is possible that some sperms are present in that fluid. So even if a male is withdrawing before the coitus, it is not a foolproof way to say that pregnancy will not happen. Is it clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Just write down coitus interruptus. It involves withdrawal of the penis. It involves withdrawal of the penis from the vaginal tract, before ejaculation. Okay. The third one. Clear? The difference between all?
Yes, sir.
Now let's go to fourth. The fourth one is called lactational amenorrhea. Anyone knows what is a lactational amenorrhea?
Period of time after childbirth.
So what happens in that period?
You can't produce babies.
Who can't produce babies? Females.
Yes.
Why? Think logically, what is happening? You have studied parturition, right?
Yes.
What happens just after the birth? Minashi.
The unsected HCG.
Sorry?
HCG.
Your voice is it just breaking for me or it is breaking for others also? Minashi's voice is breaking, right?
Yes.
Okay. Minashi, try to come to a good network connectivity. Mazia, are you there? Would you like to tell what happens just after the childbirth? Mazia, I think she can't. Oh, she has problem with mic. Okay, yeah. Then I rely on Reem and Madhya. Tell me what happens just after the childbirth, parturition. Lactation, production of milk in the mammary glands, right?
Yes.
And it is a biological process which ensures that the baby gets nutrition. So for it works for first 6 months after the childbirth. So for 6 months, both ovulation and the menstrual cycle stops in females. This is the reason they cannot produce babies. Is it clear? So they
Yes.
periodically infertile. So they are out of the state of pregnancy, but they still have not started the normal cycle of menstruation and ovulation. Is it clear? And in that time, they are using all that energy which they were earlier losing in menstrual cycle. They are using all that energy to produce milk in their body to feed the baby. So that's called lactational amenorrhea. So write down. It is uh, it is based on the fact, this process, it is based on the fact that no ovulation and menstruation, no ovulation and menstruation occurs during first 6 months or after 6 months of parturition. No, it does not make sense. Does not occur till 6 months after parturition. Yes. So this method can only work for 6 months after parturition. You can write down intense lactation happens in this period. Intense, like females produce milk intensely. Lots and lots of milk is produced in females' mammary glands because the baby needs lots and lots of energy to develop. Okay, you must have seen that babies, if you feed them, they can just eat 10 times a day. They eat less, but they eat multiple times a day. Yes, they don't have a fixed regime of a breakfast, lunch, or a dinner. A newborn baby can just keep sucking the mother's milk throughout the day. Yes or no?
Yes.
It only does not eat when it sleeps, and also only does not cry when it's sleeping. Babies sleep a lot. Anyone knows why? Just a interesting biology.
Because they're still developing.
How does sleep helps in development? What is still developing? You're right, Reem, but I just want you to tap to the exact right point. What does sleeping achieves?
Energy.
No. Energy is through respiration. You break down glucose in your cells and make energy. What does sleeping does? It is associated with the organ which is up in your head.
Brain.
Yes. Babies sleep a lot because they do not have a developed brain. Brain development is enhanced when you are sleeping. Early in your life, when you're sleeping more, your brain cells are like developing more. You understand?
Yes, sir.
Human babies are born with uh, partially developed brains. That's why they cannot speak, learn, or do not do any activity, or they cannot even control their movement. They cannot coordinate the movements. Nothing. Okay. They do not recognize things. They just recognize a few voices of the mother or someone around. So that's called lactational amenorrhea, where for the 6 months after parturition, the chances of pregnancy is highly unlikely. Okay. Okay. Now write down. Artificial. Natural methods are done. Yes, all are done. Write down artificial temporary methods. So can anyone tell me what are the artificial methods?
Condoms.
They're called barrier methods, right? Naturally, we are not putting barriers. So see, the logic is simple. Either you cut the highway, the road is cut, there is no traffic now. That's called permanent solution. Done and dusted. In temporary, it can be revoked back. So either it could be natural. In natural, we are not allowing them to meet. Them means sperm and ovum. So either the married couple, they are having sexual intercourse during the safe period, or they are abstaining from sexual intercourse from the most risky period, or they are practicing coitus interruptus, withdrawal method just before ejaculation, or sexual intercourse during lactational amenorrhea. All these are not allowing the union. Like you're just not allowing both of them to be present at the same time at the same place. But if you want to do it more effectively, all the natural methods, safe period, abstinence, coitus, and lactational amenorrhea, have high chances, write down, high chances of failure. Okay? They have high chances of failure. Then comes the artificial methods, also known as the barrier methods. The first kind of methods are barrier methods. Now, in barriers, the first thing, which I think Reem answered, was a condom. Now, there are two types of condoms, a male condom and a female condom. Condoms are basically latex sheath. It is not permeable at all. It is just a wall between the male and the female genitalia. It's a wall which does not allow the transfer of gametes into the female from the male. Simply, that's called the barrier. Is it clear? We are containing, so ejaculation is happening, but all that is being contained within that latex sheet. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
First is, so if it is a male, it's called condom. People use the term like male condom, which is actually the term condom, because if it's for female, it's called femidom. Okay. If it's a female condom, it's called femidom. So write down. These are thin latex sheath. Thin latex or rubber. Latex is a good quality processed rubber only. So rubber or latex sheath used to cover either the male genitalia, which is penis, or the female genitalia, which is the vagina. Okay, and write down, it prevents the release of sperms. It prevents the release of sperms into the female tract. Into the female tract. Okay, this is first. The second is there's something called a cervix cup. Okay. Now remember, it's not a part of IUD. This is a question which has been asked in NEET. Is cervix cup a part of IUD? Like, which of the following is not an IUD? Intrauterine devices. IUDs are intrauterine devices. So those devices go in the uterus. Okay. Is it clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
This just stays at the junction, like the gate of the uterus, which is the cervix. So it's like a cup which covers the cervix and do not allow anything to enter beyond the vaginal tract. Okay. Now cervix cup, write down. Cervix cup are can be inserted and placed. Can be inserted and placed covering the cervix. Covering the cervix. And they prevent conception. They prevent conception by blocking the entry of sperms. By blocking the entry of sperms into the uterus. Into the uterus. Now also what is asked is in entrance is which is reusable method. So natural method is, of course, like there's no concept of reusing here because it's an action, correct? Is condom and femidom reusable?
No.
It's not reusable. Is cervix cap reusable?
Yes.
Yes, it is reusable. Why I'm writing yes. Write down reusable. So cervical cap or cervix cap is reusable. Okay. Then let's come to there are things called diaphragms. Diaphragm. It is also like a cervix cup only, but it's instead of a cup-like thing, it is a membrane. It's called diaphragm. Okay. It does the same thing. Blocks the entry of sperms into the uterus. Which means sperm stays in the vagina, right? The vaginal canal, at least. In both these two methods, sperm is there inside the female tract. Yes or no?
Yes.
So it can prevent conception, but it cannot prevent diseases, sexually transmitted diseases, right? This is another question that is asked. Which of the following prevents both conception and sexually transmitted diseases? Then the only option that can prevent both is a condom or a femidom. Is it clear? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
No other method prevents both. Cervix cap and diaphragm do not prevent STDs. They prevent conception only. Okay. Now these are barrier. Now let's come to IUDs. This is another class. IUDs. It's called intrauterine devices, which says that something we are placing inside the uterus. Now the concept here is not to block. The concept here is to let the sperms come. But this device will kill all the sperms. The concept here is spermicide. Is it clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
IUDs are spermicides. Write down, they are spermicidal in nature. What do we mean by cidal? Pesticides. Pesticides?
Something that kills.
Yes. Insecticides kills insects, pesticide, spermicide, suicide, homicide, femicide, all these are for killing. Okay. So spermicidal in nature. So they rely on killing all the sperms. So they are not blocking, they are not preventing both of them. They are saying, okay, let it come. We have something in place which will kill all the sperm. So no fertilization will happen. So write down about IUDs. These are plastic or metal devices. Plastic or metal devices inserted by the doctors in the uterus. You know, from this chapter, the kind of questions that I have seen in entrances, they are very detail oriented. For example, do we need which of the following contraceptive method does not need a specialized supervision? Use of condom, use of cervix cap, use of diaphragm, or all of the above? Does not require is the question. Tell me.
Cervix cup.
All of the above. Do you require a do you think there is a requirement of a supervision for using condom and diaphragms?
But it can break.
No, that is the failure of that thing. But I'm talking about supervision, where some medical personnel is required to make sure that it is happening correctly. Okay, you understand?
Yes.
Supervision. Supervision means someone has to ensure that it is correct. So all the barrier methods like condom, cervix cap, and diaphragm do not need any supervision. But IUDs need that, because these are actually devices, plastic or metal devices, which needs to be inserted and placed in the uterus in a proper orientation. That's the most important thing. So a doctor can do that. A gynecologist does that most of the time. Okay. So write down. These are plastic or metal objects which are inserted. What have you written? Can someone please repeat?
These are plastic or metal devices inserted by doctors.
Yes, doctors in the uterus. In the uterus, non-surgically through vagina. So there is no surgery required for IUDs. Okay, non-surgically through the vaginal canal. So there are three types of IUDs on which NEET has asked questions. Write down. One is called non-medicated. Non-medicated IUDs. These are not used very much. Okay, so they are not foolproof. Non-medicated IUDs. Write down. The example is, there is one example that I know of. It's called lips loop. Lips loop. This is one IUD, intrauterine device, which non-medicated means it does not secrete any chemical. It has no drug or medication. Is it clear? Is it clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So how it is working then? Can you think? If it is not secreting something, then how it is working? If you're not secreting something, you cannot kill all the sperms, right? So how are you working? The answer is in the name. Loop. It's a loop. What does it mean?
Repetition.
Yeah, but like the structure basically delays. Like it does not allow the sperm to reach at the site of fertilization. What is the site of fertilization? Last chapter. Yes, it's in fallopian tube. Write down a Madiha and Reem. This is a question. Neat question. The site of fertilization in humans is ampulla isthmus junction in the fallopian tube. Ampulla isthmus junction. You know that these are two parts of the fallopian tube, yes or no? Please keep telling me what you know already so that it will help me to devise a better plan for both of you. If you do not know something, tell it to me, because that's my job to make you aware of everything that can be asked in the exam. Okay, that can come. So you know about the parts of fallopian tube, Madiha and Reem?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Ready this? Okay, cool, good. So ampulla isthmus junction is the site of fertilization in humans. So non-medicated IUD is one, just lips loop. It's not very prevalent now. It's not used. The second is, write down, copper releasing IUD. Copper releasing IUD. So it releases copper ions. Now, copper is an anion or a cation? Who can tell me?
It is a cation.
Yes, it's a cation. So what do copper ions do? What do you think? Copper ions, how will it affect the sperm? Any idea? How does it work?
They delay
They
the
suppress the sperm mortality.
Yes, perfect. So they bring charge with them. And whenever there is positive charge, it affects the chemical composition of the semen, right? So it makes the sperm less motile. And if you can just slow down the sperm, ultimately they will exhaust in the uterus itself. And before they reach the fallopian tube, they will die. Correct? Yes or no?
Yes.
So write down copper releasing IUDs. Copper releasing IUDs decrease sperm motility and viability. You know what is viability? So they decrease sperm motility and viability. Viability is the ability of a sperm to fertilize an ovum. Okay. That has a lot of factors. And in entrance, they always ask examples. So two are very easy, CU7 and CUT. CUT is also known as copper T. The most common IUD used in the market is copper T. You must have heard of this also. Okay. So CU7 and copper T. And there is one more, the name is 375, multi-load 375. Multi-load 375. I don't know the reason behind this name, so please don't ask. But these are three which has been asked in entrances under copper releasing IUDs. Non-mediated IUDs, lipis loop, copper releasing CU7, CUT, copper T, and multi-load 375. The third one is hormone releasing. Write down. Hormone releasing IUDs. Now, can you think of one hormone which we can exploit or use to prevent pregnancy? Which hormone, if provided, will prevent pregnancy? Yes. Any idea? So these are basically the hormones which do not allow implantation to happen. You understand?
Estrogen.
Sorry?
Estrogen.
Progesterone estrogen cocktail can also work. And so there is one name called Progestasert. Can someone please confirm this for me from some sources? I remember it, but I do not have an internet source right now. The one I'm using apart from that. So Progestasert and LNG20. These are LNG20 is very common. Just confirm that this name I've written correct. Progestasert. These are two hormone releasing IUDs.
It's correct, sir.
Right? Did you check? Please?
Yes.
Thank
Yes.
you. Thank you. So Progestasert and LNG20, and write down hormone releasing IUDs. Hormone releasing IUDs make the uterus hostile and unsuitable. Hostile and unsuitable for implantation. Okay. So it makes the uterus unsuitable for implantation and hostile. It also, write down, it also increases phagocytosis of sperms. Phagocytosis. What is phagocytosis? Class 11th. This term you have studied in immune system. Phagocytosis. WBCs do phagocytosis to all the antigens. Remember? They just go and eat the foreign particles, right? Yes? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So these hormones give signals to certain cells which starts eating up sperms. So phagocytosis, they increase the phagocytosis of sperms. And third thing that they do is they make the cervix hostile. So they act on three levels. They make the cervix hostile so that nothing enters from vagina into the cervix to come into the uterus. Even if it comes into the uterus, they also make the uterus hostile and phagocytic and unsuitable. And apart from these two things, they also in general make other cells eat up the sperms. So Progestasert and LNG. These names, if you can remember, you will not lose marks. So this chapter does not have much of concepts. Just remember these. So IUDs are done. Apart from IUDs, what else we are missing from contraception? Oh, the most
Pills.
oral, yes, the most important ones we are missing. Oral contraceptions, right now. Oral contraceptives. Now, one thing is very logical. If it is an oral contraceptive, you have to take it through mouth, right? Like a pill. Yes.
Yes.
And it can only be taken after you suspect a pregnancy, right? After a unprotected or unprotected sexual intercourse. So if a female thinks that because of an unprotected sexual intercourse, she might get pregnant, then by that time, none of all of this cannot work. If she has an IUD, then clearly that's not a problem. But if she does not have an intrauterine device implanted already, then unprotected sexual intercourse means there was no diaphragm, no cervix cap, no condom or femidom, right?
Yes.
The natural methods were also not in place. So the last emergency, so oral contraceptives are called emergency contraceptives for this reason. They are the only contraceptives that work in emergency. And they are not applied before the act of sexual intercourse. They are applied or they are taken after that act. Is it clear? Rest everything comes before. Natural barriers comes before. Permanent though obviously comes before. Natural barriers comes before. Femidom, cervix cap, condom, diaphragm comes before. IUDs comes before, right? They all have to be in place. Oral contraceptives comes after it has happened and there is a risk. They're called emergency contraceptives. And write down, they are of two types. They are of two types. One is combined pill. Now, I don't think if this is in your NCRT, but it has been asked, so you should know this. Combined pill or mini pill. Pills means tablets, simple. Now write down. Combined pills. The name combined is because they are the most common, which are available contraceptives in market. They are combined pills. Write down. Combined pills have both progesterone and estrogen. Progesterone and estrogen. Now, how do you think these two chemicals are helping? After the sperm has already entered the female tract, how do you think these hormones are helping? Last chapter, chapter 3. Anyone remembers any concept? What happens when the level of progesterone and estrogen goes up? Any idea? No one? It does not allow ovulation to happen. Very high levels of progesterone and estrogen gives a false signal to the ovary that the endometrium is still being formed and we cannot start ovulating till it is formed properly. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Chapter 3, first the estrogen comes up and then the endometrium is formed. Then progesterone comes up, in between ovulation happens, and then endometrium is doubled in thickness, correct? So if you keep these two levels high, they give a pseudo signal like a pregnancy. In pregnancy, there is no ovulation happening, correct?
Yes.
Because throughout the pregnancy, the level of estrogen and progesterone are very high. Remember, corpus luteum keeps producing progesterone, placenta keeps producing progesterone. Yes, Meenakshi, Madhya, are you following the logic?
So
Yes, sir.
So high levels of progesterone and estrogen keeps giving a false signal to the body that the body feels like it is in a pregnancy state. The endometrium should not come down and we should not ovulate. So if there is no ovulation and even if sperm is there in the system, what are you ensuring? Sperm.
The entry of sperms.
Yes, so entry of sperm is there. It has happened, you know. So this is a after thing. It's emergency contraceptive. It has lots of side effects also, but biologically it will work because when sperm has already entered a female tract, now we cannot do anything with the sperm, right? There is no IUD in place to kill it. Now we cannot use barrier methods, like the arrow has been shot from the bow already. So what can be done now? To not let the target come into the picture, right? What is
Yes.
the target for sperms? Ovum. Yes.
Yes.
So if sperms are there, but I do not allow ovum to come into the picture, then will fertilization happen?
No.
No. So this is what combined pills do. So write down. They contain progesterone and estrogen. Synthetic progesterone. Okay, these two are synthetic. Synthetic progesterone and synthetic estrogen to prevent ovulation. To prevent ovulation. Okay, and in mini pills, they are fast acting, but they are not very commonly used because they only contain one thing called progestin. Progestin is a synthetic progesterone. So this was discovered earlier. Then scientists and biologists realized that if we combine it with estrogen, then the signal to check ovulation is better. So that combined pills came. Okay. So it contains progestin, synthetic progesterone only. Now write down. The oral pills act by the following ways. How do they ensure contraception? First is inhibiting the ovulation. Simple. Inhibition of ovulation. What else they can do? They also inhibit, write down, inhibition of secretory actions of oviduct. Inhibition of secretory actions of oviduct. Oviduct is fallopian tube, okay? Reem? Understand?
Yes, sir.
Third thing they do is these pills make the cervix hostile chemically. It changes the chemical composition of the lining of cervix and the vaginal tract, so that lots and lots of sperms are not allowed to come in, or they are killed there. And fourth, these pills can do is yes, they can make the endometrium. They make the endometrium unable to allow implantation. These are the 4 ways by which oral contraceptives can work. Just remember them. It's simple. Do not allow ovulation to happen. The best thing you can do. If not that, then inhibit the secretory action of oviduct. If oviducts will not secrete certain things, then ovum will not be properly reached toward that region where fertilization can happen. Third, make the cervix hostile. This might not work well because by the time a female takes the oral contraceptive, there is a limit. It can only be taken before 48 to 72 hours of sexual intercourse. So it has a limit. If you do not take it within the limit, it might not work. And the later you go, the lesser the chances of working is there. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Ours is basically 3 days. So within 2 days is the ideal. Within 1 day is the most ideal. The next day is the most ideal. Because if you have to inhibit ovulation, you have to do it as fast as you can. And let me tell you, these are drugs, chemicals. So they have to first go through the mouth into the stomach, then from there into the intestine, then gets digested, then get into the bloodstream, and then reach the site of uterus, cervix, or oviduct. Correct?
Yes.
All this is also going to take time. It never happens, no? So if you have a fever, what do you do? When you get fever, what do you do?
Take a tablet.
Which is that tablet?
Something related to your fever.
Antipyretics, paracetamol, or like the chemical name is paracetamol, right? When we take that tablet, do we feel like relief from fever in half an hour, 15 minutes?
No.
Then how minimum how much time it takes?
4 or 5 hours.
Yes, around 2 to 3 hours it takes, right? Because that is the way through which drugs gets into the body and then gets to a target system through blood. So same thing is happening for oral contraceptives. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
And what else is important? I think that's all the methods we have done. Anyone has NCRT right now? So I've gone a sequence wise. I've not followed NCRT, but anyone has an NCRT right now with them? Madhiha,
I
Meenakshi?
do.
Can you open chapter 4, please?
Yes.
Just see that if they are talking about anything else apart from what we have discussed here. I think I've told you more than enough what is there in NCRT, but if something is missing, please let me
Nothing is missing.
know. Is there a term in NCRT, Reem, if you can confirm for me, like
Implants.
implants? Is there? Yeah?
Yeah, it is there.
Okay. So let's do it. So write down implants, hormonal implants. You know what are implants?
Yes.
Yes. What is it, Reem?
Something is injected under our skin.
Not injected, it is implanted. It is there, present in under the skin. It constantly, on a slow rate, keeps secreting the same hormone which was there in the oral contraceptive. Okay.
Okay.
So it keeps the level of that hormone maintained in the body. And what is the benefit of that? The benefit is that any time of the day or the night, your body is not your body is hostile to sperm or ovum entry or ovulation or any of the factors that we have discussed. Do you understand? So it is like, instead of taking a oral contraceptive, you maintain a level of that hormone steady in your body, which does not allow implantation or fertilization to happen easily. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Write down. Hormonal implants or hormonal injections. You're right. They are two different things. Injections are where they inject it in your muscles or veins. Muscles, no, veins. Hormonal implants or hormonal injections. In this, what you have to remember is just one name that has been asked. Again, levonorgestrel, I think. Again, can someone please confirm this? Reem, can you confirm this? Levonorgestrel is the chemical, okay, which is implanted or injected. Levonorgestrel. They are.
They are hormonal medication.
Is this word correct?
Yes, sir.
So they are
Hormonal medication.
subdermal. Subdermal hormonal implants or medications. Okay. You don't have to know much about it. Like I have not seen a question. I just did it because the words is there in NCRT. So you should know about it. Just know this term if you can. Levonorgestrel. That's all. It's given both as injections as and as implants, medicals. Okay, so I think we have covered all the contraceptive methods, and let's end here. Let's end today's class 5 minutes early, because the next topic which I will start will not be finished in 5 minutes. So we have to talk about medical termination of pregnancy and sexually transmitted diseases. So these are the and then after that fetal disorders. They are asked in entrances. So fetal disorders, sexually transmitted diseases, and what did I say?
Medical termination.
So these three things we will finish in the next class, and then this chapter will be over. So in the next class, this chapter will just over in the first like half an hour or 45 minutes, and I will start with chapter 5, genetics. And before starting that, I will discuss with you all the previous year's questions that have been asked from this chapter. Not many question has come in entrances, but all which has come, we will discuss it tomorrow. Okay. the actual questions from previous year NEET papers. Cool.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Diha, Minashi, Reem. So take care. Good night. Stay blessed.
Thank you, sir.
Bye. And Madiha and Reem, please do that. The thing that I asked you. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Join tomorrow half an hour early.
Okay, sir.
Bye bye.